Welcome to the T.A.C. show. Today with our guest, Robert Keefe.
Hi.
So you started out as a guitarist in California, right?
I did. I
Like,
started very young. I started guitar when I was 14, although I did take some piano lessons earlier than that, and then some trumpet and clarinet lessons. But guitar was the thing that stuck with me.
what inspired your passion for guitar? Was there like any figure or anybody in your life who got you into guitar playing?
I think my best friend at the time, we were both in about seventh or eighth grade, and he had a guitar and he let me play it, and I really liked it. So that was a lot of fun.
Did you grow up with the Beatles, or like what type of music do you think inspired your style?
I think the surf music of the Beach Boys and Dick Dale. It wasn't until about a year or two later I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and that was pretty exciting. So that was, I guess, those are my main influences.
Yeah, it's back then they didn't have music videos, right? They just had basically fancy concert shows, but on TV.
That's exactly right. Although I did see some live music, I did see the Beach Boys when I was 12 and when I was 15, so that was pretty exciting. Brian Wilson was still in the band then.
Yeah. It was like Brian Wilson, he left for a while, right? He left sometime in the 70s and like to make this album, and then he came back years later.
He did. He did. That's
Was,
right.
was he the lead singer or
He was the bass player and a singer. He was one of the singers, and he did a lot of the composing and writing of the songs. He did most of the writing and composing. A couple other people helped him, but it was mostly his music.
so that's interesting. Like what was like your first public guitar performance? Like how old were you when you did your first concert?
Uh, I think probably 14 or 15. My Spanish teacher knew I played in a band, and he invited the whole band to play for the Spanish class. And then I think maybe within 4 months, I had my first paying job. I was 15. And so we played at a New Year's Eve party for a club, a teen club.
What's the craziest concert you've like throughout your entire career? Like what's the wildest concert you've ever had or played in?
That I've played in or that I've seen?
No, you've played in.
Uh, Boy, I don't know. I mean, I mostly play the wineries and things like that in the summertime when we do have that going. Uh, Probably not the wildest, but probably the most people. I think probably about 300 or 400 people were dancing in front of us, and that was pretty exciting.
So no mosh pits.
No, no, that's not our style of music. It's more classic rock and things
Uh,
like that.
so did you start out with acoustic or like did you just immediately go to electric?
I
Like what
started
type
off
of
on
guitar?
acoustic, and I still have my first acoustic guitar. That's at my mom's house in California, and I happen to have right here my first electric.
Well, that's
It's a
cool.
1964 Fender Stratocaster. And my very first electric, I had a paper route that I delivered papers in our hometown, and I saved up the money for that. My mom co-signed for a loan, and we got it.
Oh,
So I've kept it ever
that's
since.
like how old were you when you first got that?
The electric, probably 14, close to 15, maybe. Probably November. Yeah, my birthday's in January, so I was about end of 14, beginning of 15 years old.
Oh wow, that's so interesting that I was able to stay around for so long. Like, what do you think is the most important thing you've ever learned as a musician?
Oh, listening. That's one of them. Just hearing what goes around you. Patience, timing, getting along well with others. That's some of it. I don't know if it's all of it, but that's the most important part.
How'd you get yourself in New York? How'd you get yourself from coast to coast?
Good question. Started teaching at Ithaca College in 1987, and I don't teach there anymore. But my wife and I have been here since '87, so it was one of the first jobs I got out of grad school. I went to
Do,
school in Texas, near Dallas, and that's where I got my degrees in music.
do you think that these days it's easier for anybody to become a musician now that you have things such as SoundCloud and Spotify?
I do. I do think it's easier. There's a lot of good videos out there to help you, but you really can't beat having a one-on-one lesson with an instructor or professional musician. It's
Who,
kind of
who
difficult to do that now because of the COVID stuff. So a lot of my lessons are on Zoom. In fact, they've been on Zoom since March of last year.
who taught you as a teenager? Who trained you to go and play guitar?
I had a couple of real good teachers in junior high and high school, and then later when I got to college, I had a really good teacher, and he helped me the most, I think.
Oh, did you learn anything at all? Like, so you're a doctor in music?
I have a PhD in music composition and uh, and guitar.
Yeah. Like, was there like any main difference in like taking normal lessons compared to going to a college about music?
The college studying in guitar, where I studied at North Texas State, they put you in situations and in ensembles where you have to learn how to read music, learn how to play as an ensemble. That was pretty exciting, but there's nothing like a one-on-one because you can always do something with a student as far as correcting the posture or the phrasing of the music. It's a little difficult to do that on Zoom because I can't, put my hand in there and say, "Hey, do this way," do that way. So it's a little tough sometimes.
So what exactly is the main difference from the lead guitar and the bass guitar?
Sure, the lead guitar takes more melody, uh, sometimes solos. Bass guitar is four-stringed instrument, and that's more along plays the root of the chord or some movement in the chord progression, and is usually aligned with the drummer and keeping the beat there.
So is the bass just deeper then, and like the bass is more drum related?
Well, not drum related, but the bass and drums work together. The bass drum on the kit and the bass kind of work together in a rhythmical pattern. The bass is actually like a guitar. It's the lower strings are E, A, D, and G, but they're tuned an octave lower. The strings are thicker, and it provides more of a deeper type of sound.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I never really knew too much of the difference. So usually the deeper like sound you hear next to the drum and sounds, like if I hear like a deeper guitar sound, would that most likely be the bass?
Right, it would be. It would be. And in a lot of the newer musics, they'll bring the bass out more, so it sounds like dum, 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 dum. And that'd be along the lines of the drummer and the bass doing that type of pattern or that type of riff.
Since Flea of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, he's the bassist. Yeah, he's like basically the lead guitarist of the band.
Yes, yes, he's wild, isn't he? My gosh, he's wild.
Yeah, I'm still shocked that he was actually in Back to the Future as Marty McFly's boss. He got Marty McFly fired.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize that. Is that the one? It's the
Yeah,
second one, isn't it?
yeah,
Where
no,
they
he
go
does like
into the
some,
future.
he does some type of illegal transaction over a meeting, and then
Right.
he goes and gets him.
Yeah, that's a funny film. Those I like all three of those films.
Have you ever written any original music yourself?
Yes, I have. I've got a couple pieces for orchestra on CD. I've got some works published. I've got a work that's actually on a vinyl record written a long time ago, and I've written a lot of songs for my surf band and for this lady I sing with, or that sings with me, Hannah Martin.
Like what's the creative process of going through the song? Like, what's the creation of doing a song like?
It's challenging. It somehow certain things come to me either before I go to sleep or when I wake up in the morning or when I'm playing my guitar. I might find a little creative spark where I can use to put that in a composition. A lot of times I will sit down and the music will flow out of me. Other times, I might be working on a piece of music for anywhere up to 6 months. It really depends. Creative process is tough to pigeonhole. Sometimes it comes nicely. If I find a nice melody, I can usually find a chord progression. If I find a chord progression, I may be able to find a melody. So and it's hard to say what comes first because sometimes they both happen simultaneously in my head. I can hear both parts at once.
So it all goes back to like a spark, like just like a random idea spark, and you just build
Something
off of
like that.
that.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I might hear a song, and I'll maybe two or three parts of that song might inspire me to do something very creative. But it's a tough thing to describe and a tough thing to pigeonhole. I guess it's kind of like an artist who's painting. What inspires him to get that painting out there. So it's one of those things.
Yeah. So how exactly like do royalties work? Like I heard artists like say they don't get too much in terms of royalties. Like how much do you usually get like from the sales, like the royalties?
Not very much. I came out with a Christmas CD, a surfing with Santa Christmas CD about 10 years ago, and the amount of money I put into the making the CD and getting it pressed, doing the artwork and stuff like that, I think I made maybe $300 or $400 beyond that. Um, and there are several places you can connect with, like Spotify or Amazon or something like that. Or so when they play your record or your CD, you get a certain percentage of royalty of that. But the only thing is, if you get one airplay, it might be worth 0.0000001 cents. So you can see it takes a long time to build up any money. More famous artists, of course, they sell records and do concerts and things like that, and they have a bigger income.
What did you think of Napster back in the day, back when it was around? Like, did you like the entire idea of just being able to download other people's songs and like, you sure you'd have advertisements that you could download and share files and songs. They just claim it was a file sharing system, and that they were not responsible for piracy. But what do you think?
Yeah, I'm totally against that because the artist created something and he should get the royalties from that. It's kind of like ripping somebody's ideas off and claiming them for your own.
These days, like they sort of have a compromise. Like they had iTunes for a while, and now they have Spotify and Pandora. They have all that stuff. But it must have been a really interesting era back then, since nobody really knew what to do, since this was all brand new. And it all
Right.
basically started around from a bunch of teenagers experimenting in their basement.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, some people think that okay, we should be able to share this because somebody created it already, but you got to remember that the artist wrote that, and he should be able to get his share of royalties every time his piece is played.
Yeah. What's your favorite song that you like to play? Like like when you go out at concerts or venues, like do you have any particular favorite?
If I It depends. Now, if I do like a jazz gig with my singer, um, usually anything that she sings or plays, I enjoy doing. So it's really hard to say if I have one particular um, tune. Um, no, I like them all. I like them all.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What do you think that for the last 10 years, like ever since Coldplay for the last 10 years, rock just hasn't been around too much. Like these days, like it's mostly just either pop music or alternative music or electro music. Like, why do you think that, the traditional rock and roll has been such like somewhat of a decline lately?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, the people my age will listen to classic rock a lot, but as far as producing that type of stuff, it seems like there's more of a blend of, well, for example, Maroon 5. They usually play a song, then they have a rapper associated in the middle with the a song, then they finish the song. A lot of artists are doing that. I just don't know. It seems more like country music these days is almost like a rock and roll the way they have it going.
Yeah, because like for a while you just had rock and roll evolving. Like you had hard rock, you had soft rock, you had heavy metal, you had punk rock, you had alternative rock, you had grunge,
Yeah,
you had all that stuff. But you just you don't like you just haven't heard that lately. It's too bad.
yeah, it is. It is. There's a lot of good rock music out there. I don't know why that is. I just don't.
Yeah. I also find it interesting that Jimmy Carter, it's true that Jimmy Carter was the first president to endorse rock and roll, right?
Yeah, I think so. That's what I think. I just read that recently. When he's like 96 now, isn't he, or 98 or something like that?
Yeah,
He's
but like
he's up
he
there. He's too
probably
old.
started endorsing it 43 years ago. By then, rock and roll could have been it was over like nearly a quarter century old.
Right, right. That's true. That's true.
Like, why do you think so many presidents before that were against it?
Oh boy, I don't know. Trying to think who was before Carter.
Well, you had Johnson and
Johnson,
Nixon,
yeah.
Kennedy.
Nixon, yeah. I don't know. I think rock and roll was kind of looked down upon at that point. There were cases in 1963 and 64 where people were actually burning Beatles records because they thought that it was bad music.
That's so shocking.
Yeah,
Because now you have like 200 million copies of those music records. If anything, they help make the Beatles even more money.
right,
They
right.
keep
That's
on buying and destroying this stuff. It's just making more money for them.
right, right.
Uh,
Is this for a project for you for school or what? What is
No,
this?
no, I guess it's somewhat like a hobby.
Oh, that's so
I don't know, I
cool.
just, oh yeah, yeah. I've done this with like all types of people. I've learned a lot of interesting stuff.
I bet. Plus, you have to do some research, don't you, as far as what questions you're going to ask the interviewee and things like that, Tom.
No, not really. I just like think stuff in my head. I don't really have to go on a 20-minute binge on Google to try to learn anything.
Well, that's good. That's very good. Good for you.
Yeah, because the because the Beatles. I remember like the Beatles were the Billboard top stars, and didn't the Big Bopper and Buddy Holly both die in a plane crash back about 60 years ago?
Yeah, it was 1959, February 3rd, and
Yeah.
that's the. They say that that's the day the music died, and that Don McLean song "American Pie" references that.
Like, did you remember how did your parents react to that? Like, were they generally shocked?
Well, my mom and dad were pretty cool, especially my mom. I mean, they grew up during World War II and knew all the big band stuff like Glenn Miller and Tommy Dorsey, and they danced to big band music because that's what they did back in the late 40s and early 50s. But when Elvis came out, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, rock and roll, I mean, my mom loved that stuff. So I think she was pretty influential on my music taste. That's probably why I went towards rock and roll music versus classical music. I think I'd have to say it was my mom that really was helping me with that. She really liked what I did.
Do you think artists such as like Bob Dylan and like other musical artists that were big 50, 60 years ago can make it today on like things such as American Idol or those other reality shows?
I don't think so. To me, American Idol is like a flash in the pan. There's so many talented people out in the world and in the United States and New York, New York State, and to have them go on American Idol, it's kind of like, oh, I've made it big. Then they've got their quote 15 minutes of fame unquote, and then you never hear from them again. But I think
Yeah,
it'd be
yeah.
really it'd be really tough to have somebody really good musically uh, on American Idol, because I think you have to have more of a gimmick. You know, your hair, your style, your dress, your arrangements. Yeah, who knows? Who
I know
knows?
Bob Dylan's vocals are like, oh, like if he's like, and I was like, baby, 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 oh, I knew you were really mine, oh mine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he isn't the greatest vocalist, is he? But his songs and his poetry are probably the thing that gets him the best. Plus, his
yeah.
songwriting is very good too.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix's biggest song is like basically his song.
Right, all along the Watchtower, Dylan. I think Dylan said, "Well, that's that's your song now," or something like that, because he did such a fantastic interpretation on it.
Yeah, but some people get famous off of American Idol. Like you have Kelly Clarkson, of her, she's big. She got a talk show and movie. And they have Jennifer Hudson. She's like a singer and big actress. And then you have Adam Lambert, who basically like revived Queen.
Right, but how, of all those, you named three, but
But yeah,
think
that's like, but that's three out of probably like something hundred people who've auditioned.
right, exactly. And who knows why they pick the ones they do? It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Do you think the 27 Club is just a coincidence?
I'm not familiar with that. What's the 27
It's
Club?
like just like a bunch of rock artists like just pass away.
The die. I don't know. I mean, within a year, there was Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and
And
Jim Morrison of the Doors.
then you had the guy from Canned Meat. Or no, it's not
Can't
Canned
he?
Meat. It
Can't
was
he?
Canned Meat.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
is
was Canned Heat.
that Bob Height
uh,
was the bear? Was it the Blind Owl? Can't
I was
remember.
like, oh, we're going up the country. It was like the
Oh
lead
yeah,
singer.
yeah. I didn't realize that. He might have died early. There's also, I don't know if he was 27, but the piano player for the Grateful Dead also died early too.
Oh yeah. And you got Amy Winehouse and Kurt Cobain and yeah. And then Robert, isn't there like the famous Robert Johnson, the famous guitarist?
Yeah, yeah. The blues player. I think he died early too as well.
So do you think they're just all coincidences?
I don't know. It's like you get to a certain level and you're famous and there's a lot of influences on you, like your peers and drugs and wrong choices and things like that. And that might have a lot to do with it as well too. And
Uh,
who knows what their family life was like either. It might have been pretty troublesome. They might have had trouble with their parents, trouble with other people, and they became creative, and then they never got rid of those demons.
yeah. I wonder why there was like an entire urban legend about Robert Johnson selling his soul to the devil. Like, I wonder why people think that.
Now, I don't know. It's a good question. There's not too much known about him. He left some fantastic recordings. I don't know. I just
Because
don't
like,
know.
oh, bro, he's like a supporting character in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Basically,
Yeah,
he's like part of the music group, and it just
right.
tore. It's basically like like a Southern '30s antebellum take on like the Odyssey.
Yes,
Except,
exactly. And then there's
yeah,
that movie with Ralph Machado. What is it? Steve Vai makes a guest appearance on there. He plays guitar. I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's about kind of like the same thing. Can't remember the name of that movie. You should look that up right now.
do you think the Dewey Cox film was pretty good?
Which one was that? I'm not sure if I've
It
seen
was
that
like
one.
this John C. Riley film. It was basically parodying the rock biopic. Since like a lot of people back then they called it the rock like biopics formulaic. So then John C. Riley, I think Adam McKay produced it. They made this Dewey Cox film set from the 50s to the 2000s about this rock star named Dewey Cox's life and his how he like basically talks with how he becomes famous on the internet and I was like a star from the 50s and met a bunch of celebrities over the years and his rise and fall and rise again.
No, I haven't seen that one. That's interesting. Of course, you've seen this is Spinal Tap too. That's a mockumentary on the
I
on
don't
the
know. I should watch that sometime. I think I've seen some of. I don't know. I haven't seen too much. I don't think I've seen any of Christopher Guest stuff. I've seen some of Eugene Levy stuff. Yeah, but yeah,
oh
I
yeah,
should try it out sometime.
yeah. What's that? A Mighty Wind, I think.
Yeah. Do you turn up your guitar at 11 when you're in concerts? Do you make sure that solo is a good old? Yeah.
No, I don't. I mean, uh, I'm very conscientious of what how my guitar needs to sound, how I blend with others, things like that. Oh, that Ralph Machado film, I just snuck up and went on Google. Shouldn't have done it, but it's called Crossroads.
Wasn't that Joaquin Phoenix as Johnny Cash? Or no, yeah, Johnny Cash. Yeah.
Oh no, that's a different film.
Oh, that's
Crossroads was
Walk the
about
Line.
yeah, Crossroads was about Machado playing guitar, and he kind of made a pact with the devil, kind of like the Robert Johnson story. But it was it has a happy ending at least. It's pretty cool. But the Karate Kid made another movie.
Oh, that's so basically that's an old. Ralph Machado. He does look pretty. Like he looks young. Like he does. Like he looks like he's 40 years old for like somebody who's nearly 60. When he
Yeah,
was 23 years old, he looked like a 16, 15-year old in The Karate Kid.
yeah, yeah. Don't they have like a new movie, Karate Kid, coming out or something? Or did it
They
come out?
have it's on Netflix. Yeah, he's on Cobra Kai. He's basically this like
That's it.
he's basically can't get over his ex-girlfriend. He's just leading this rival dojo, and he's like basically leading since Mr. Miyagi passed, and
Right. Yeah.
now he and his newer students are competing against like the other dojo and like the other like guys new students. It's basically like a drama take on like a realistic approach on what happens when the kids in the Karate Kid grow up and become adults.
That's funny. That's funny. That's good.
Yeah, it was too good to be on YouTube Premium, so Netflix just got up and bought it.
Okay. I have to see that. I know we've seen the Karate Kid, the first one and the second one. Those are
Mm.
entertaining. I like those.
I haven't seen the first one in a while. I thought it was pretty cool. Some of my family members got into it, but it must have been real big back then since they made much money and they even had an animated series.
Oh yeah, they did like a
Yeah,
cartoon series or something.
yeah, I think they went in outer space in some of the episodes. Oh, not as bad as that one time the Justice League went to go meet Gandalf to fight against Sauron in Super Friends.
That's good. That's really
No,
good.
no, that actually happened. It was actually an episode.
Oh my
Actually,
gosh, really? Oh, that's pretty bizarre.
uh, yeah, they had this like entire season. It was this Saturday morning cartoon where they do random stuff. They created like these wonder characters, which one of them would turn into water and the other one would turn into any animal. It was just this really bizarre show, but it must have been successful since it lasted a decade.
Not familiar with that one.
Yeah, so where do you think the origins of surf rock came from?
I know exactly where they came from. Southern California.
Uh,
Guys like Dick Dale, a few other ones. A lot of surf groups back there. I have a book back here that's it's actually a book called Pop Surf Culture, and it kind of goes through and talks about the 50s and the 60s. It's pretty nice book. They used to have these things called teenage fairs in Southern California where they would showcase stuff like guitars, cars, bathing suits, apparel, and then they used to start having bands that played their surf bands. So it's pretty cool.
yeah. So basically, the electric guitars like evolved from those old steel metal something guitars. I forgot the name of them.
Oh, the resonators, resonator
Yeah,
guitars, very similar. Yeah, Les Paul was one of the first ones to make an electric guitar, and also Rickenbacker, the company Rickenbacker, made the first electric guitar. Mine was the first design for a Fender Stratocaster was in 1954, So mine's a 1964. So it's, I guess it's like the 10th anniversary edition, although they didn't call it 10th anniversary edition back then.
So do you have like a USB-C to connect? Like how do you charge the electric guitars?
Yeah, I have an amplifier that's a solid state amplifier through a speaker. And then on the amplifier I have that goes through a USB 96. So when I do my lessons, uh, the students can hear me. And I've also got a cardioid microphone here so they can hear me. But pretty much, the electric guitar has a cable that plugs into the amplifier. And the guitar has magnetic pickups that pick up the vibrations of the strings and amplify that and run that through the guitar, run that through the amplifier. And then that goes to the speaker. But no charging involved.
Yeah, they also have like electric acoustics these days, right? Like, can't you like get like a big wooden guitar and just like amplify it too, like amplify its
Yeah,
sound?
yeah, it'd be more of an acoustic type of sound. But yeah, you can. There are guitars that have pickups, acoustic guitars that have pickups in them that are pretty nice. I just have one on the wall here I use on occasion, but for most of the teaching, it's electric because most of my students are electric players.
So, like, did you ever meet any big musicians while on your travels and touring, or like anything? You have any like really cool tours that you ever did?
No, I didn't really tour. I played mostly colleges and universities, private parties, and things like that. Trying to think of the most famous person I've met. No, I don't think I've met anybody really famous.
Oh, well, that's not bad at all.
I've seen a
So,
lot of famous people, but I think the only famous artist I did not see in the '60s was Jimi Hendrix. I mean, I saw the Doors, I saw the Who, I saw Cream, Deep Purple, all the original members. So it was pretty exciting in the '60s back then to go to concerts. It's a lot of
so
fun.
it's true that Deep Purple's "Smoke on the Water" that's based off of that time Frank Zappa and his like he had this like concert which was near some water and some fire caught on the water
Yeah,
during
something
his
like that.
concerts.
Yeah, there was I think Frank Zappa had a concert in Montreux, Switzerland, and somebody came in with a flare, and like a flare gun where you shoot it up in the air, to signal for boats and things like that, or if you have downed aircraft. And the guy shot it off, and it burned the place down. So that's why they called it "Smoke on the Water."
Was Frank Zappa really good at music?
Oh,
Like I've
phenomenal!
never.
I saw him 4 times. Once with the original Mothers of Invention. The second time was with a group called Flo and Eddie, members of the Turtles. The third time was the Grand Wazoo Orchestra. And the last time was in Dallas in 1984. I forget what that was called, but he always had excellent musicians with him. Music to some is pretty bizarre, but to me, it really speaks nicely. It's got a lot of nice compositional value to it, plus nice electric guitar solos.
Do you think the parental advisory, like those labels they put on, are actually useful? Since I know Zappa and D. Snyder was against it, right? Back when
Yeah,
they were trying to
yeah,
do it back.
yeah. That was in the early '80s, I believe. PMRC, Parental Music Resource, something like that. And basically, the parents were against a lot of the rock and roll that was coming out there because they thought the lyrics were very derogatory. Of course, compared to what happens now, I mean, it's very, very tame. So at the time, probably a lot of people were upset about it, just like they were upset with the Beatles. But who knows?
Maybe they weren't as tough on the Beatles. Since the Beatles were just that popular. Maybe it was like their magical British charm or something like that.
And I think dancing around with long hair, I mean, long hair was not very popular in 1963, 1964, and they
Yeah,
dressed differently.
the Beatles also created a modern day mockumentary. They had the Hard Day's Night film that served
Oh,
as like an
yeah,
inspiration for Christopher Guest and Greg Daniels.
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a good 20 years before anybody tried something close to it.
Uh huh.
it was like a concert film, but a parody of the concert film, showing the Beatles and the crazy stuff they did.
Right, right. There's a couple of nice Christopher Guest films. Have you seen like A Mighty Wind?
No, but I should start watching them sometime. I
Yeah,
got a lot
that's
of free time. I got a vacation coming
oh, good.
soon.
Yeah, that's the one. It's a mockumentary of the folk movement in the early 1960s. And there's another one that's a mockumentary of a dog show called Best in Show, which talks about the dog parades they have and the dog shows like that. It's really funny. Those are the only two, plus the Spinal Tap that I've seen.
Did you ever go to Woodstock, or did you ever like go to any of the Woodstock festival back when it was around back 50 years ago?
No, because I was living in California and
That was in New Jersey, right?
in New York, Bethel, New York, is where it was.
Oh,
That was 1969 in August, and no, it would have been. Oh, bless you. It would have been real prohibitive for me to drive out there. It would have taken about a week and a half, and I didn't know about it at the time. And then there was another one called Altamont, which was right after that, and that turned out to be fairly bloody, and somebody actually got killed there. But no, I never made it to any of the big festivals like that. I'm kind of a shy person. I don't like crowds too much, although I do play in front of a crowd of people, but I wouldn't want to be a person in a crowd of people. You know what I mean? At least with my guitar and the band, I have a barrier from being inside the crowd. I'm kind of on the periphery of the crowd.
when I was a little kid, when they were talking about Woodstock, I thought they were talking about Snoopy's best friend, like
Yeah, that's right.
the
And that's why they
the
named him Woodstock because, I think Snoopy's friend Woodstock came out right after Woodstock, and that's why they named him that.
yeah, but like I wonder why, like why give a bird a name Woodstock? Like it's sort of weird.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
It's too bad they were gonna do a 50th anniversary one, but still something crazy happened with the investors like last year.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Somebody got greedy or somebody couldn't do anything. And, then you got to deal with artists and how much they want to get paid and contracts and things like that. It gets very, very complicated.
Do you think Guitar Hero is any good?
I haven't used it. I really couldn't tell you. I know it's
Oh,
there, but I've never used it. How about yourself? You used it?
every time I try to do it, the audience just says horrible stuff and keeps on booing at me.
Oh boy, is that the one where you can put like a some drums in there too as well and a
No,
bass?
that's Rock Band. They're similar.
Rock.
Like you have to basically you get this guitar, you get the game, and you play like a virtual band and stuff, and then you have to constantly keep on pressing the dots really fast on a guitar, like basically like you're virtually playing it. And the harder
Oh,
the songs, the faster the rhythm and the faster the beat, and you gotta like get a perfect score so the audience will love you.
nah,
I
not
don't
for
know. It
me.
was like
Not for me.
I don't know. It was I don't know. Well, some of the other songs are slow. Like it's mostly more rock and roll based. Like they have they have like some 70s songs, but most of them are from the late 80s to present. Though they did make a rock band game about the Beatles. You basically had played as the Beatles with your like virtual drums and your virtual guitar, and you sang
Huh.
Beatles songs with CGI Beatles,
Boy, kind of
and you
silly.
also had to follow the beat. Yeah, what was it like when the music videos first came out? Like, were you shocked by what was happening on MTV?
Yeah, I was because when I hear a song or hear lyrics or hear music, uh, I have a vision in my head of what's going on or an interpretation of how the song makes me feel. The mood I'm in or whatever brings evokes a certain images and things like that. I think MTV forces the image on you, and I'm
Yeah,
kind of against that.
because like I feel that "Don't Stop Believing," like it's just an amazing song. It set up like a cool vision, but it's like one of those few great songs that doesn't really have a good concert performance video or doesn't have a music video. Like all the other of Journey's videos usually have some sort of music video, but it just doesn't. But maybe that's just why like the song is so special and can be used a lot. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I could do without the music videos because it's it's somebody else's interpretation of the song. I mean, that's great. I have my own interpretation, so that's probably why I don't watch music videos.
But what if the music videos are just made by the artists themselves, like the stuff Queen does with like Bohemian Rhapsody and Radio Gaga?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Uh, if I have a choice, a lot of times when I'm teaching over Zoom, I will share my screen with a student and I'll call up a YouTube video and we'll discuss the song if they want to learn that type of song. And if I had a choice between a music video and just lyrics on the screen, I would choose the lyrics on the screen because I find the video part of it is too distracting for me for the music. So that's another reason why I don't like music videos.
So you're just more of an imaginative person?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Because then you're looking at the true music value and learning the music itself instead of someone's interpretation of what the music is.
Yeah, cause like was because you grew up with a lot of concerts, right? Like as like a kid, what was the biggest concert you ever attended? Like
Oh
one of the
boy.
biggest audience.
Yeah, I think probably the largest one, probably Deep Purple and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I'm not on the same bill, but within a year or two of each other. But there were a lot of people in there.
Like how many? Like 500?
No, I'd say more like 3 or 4 thousand.
Oh
Oh,
wow, that's
another
shocking.
concert I saw recently that a lot of people, I don't know how many, maybe 20,000 or more, was when Paul McCartney came through Syracuse about 3 years ago, and he played at the Carrier Dome. My wife and I went to see him. That was a really memorable concert. It was Paul McCartney with his backup band, and they did all the Beatles catalog. It was just fantastic.
How much were the tickets back then compared to now for like for Deep
Oh my
Purple?
gosh, we could get. I think I got to see Deep Purple for like $3.50, and that
Like how
included
much?
Deep Purple and two other bands before Deep Purple.
Like how much do you think that'd be these days?
Boy, I don't know. Well, compared to what we paid, we had pretty good seats in Paul McCartney. We were maybe 20 rows from the stage, maybe 25. We paid $250 a seat for that.
It's like a
So
lot of people complain that these days, like a lot of modern concerts are overexpensive. Like, you might have the horrible seats being $500, and then like the most amazing seats being like several thousand.
yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I think when rock started going to the arenas and things like that, football stadiums, you kind of lose the closeness of seeing that performer. Uh, because some of the earlier concerts I went to, you could be within 25 feet of the performer, and it's very, very intimate, very comfortable.
Oh, wow, that's so interesting. I guess for somebody in my generation, I don't really know what it's like. Like I've only been to like several real concerts, and even then, like it's just it's so different.
Who have you
Like
seen? What big groups have you seen?
like just like Art Garfunkel about 2 years ago.
Oh, neat. Where was
Yeah.
that?
It was like in I think it must it was, I think it might have been in Ithaca. He
Oh,
had a
okay.
cold that night, so but yeah, he did a pretty good show despite him having a cold.
Was that at like the State Theater or something like that? Or
Yeah, it was something like that.
okay, yeah, a venue like that is nice. I mean, that's not totally crowded and
Yeah,
it's not totally small, but it's okay. It's okay.
yeah. I always wondered what was it like for the people attending Woodstock.
Oh, that must have been crazy, huh? My gosh.
Yeah,
See, I
there's so
wouldn't have
many.
gone to that because I don't care for crowds. I couldn't be
There were so many people. They had to make it free.
there. Right.
Well, anyway, thanks for talking. Thanks for being here and
Oh, you're
talking
welcome.
about your guitar career. It was really cool hearing from you today.
Well, thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, come again anytime.
Sure.